Hey, kid. Nice ride. Can you race it? We'll see about that. Hello and welcome to Good Boys Gone Bland, Season 9, Episode 1, The Fast and the Furious, Tokyo Drift. I'm your co-host, Denali.
I'm your co-host, Ryan.
I am your co-host, Jace.
And welcome to the first episode of The Garage, I believe we decided, of our car season. Vroom, vroom, baby. We are a high-octane podcast now. We're all about speed. We're all about efficiency. We're a well-oiled engine.
NOS, nitrous oxide.
Nitrous oxide, nice.
Yeah.
NOS, yeah. High
Junkyards.
speeds. Screeching tires.
Dryers nowadays. Dryers are fast nowadays. You can get a load done in like 25 minutes.
Fast dryer. You got a fast
Not great for your fabrics.
LG?
I buy a size up, and then
You buy
I
a
can dry it fast.
You buy a bigger dryer so you can...
No, it's shirts.
Oh, so bigger shirts. That's what we're about to. We're about big shirts here so they dry faster.
I think this is a good opening discussion because we are three guys with.
Okay.
We're in our 20s.
Yes.
With a podcast.
We are.
And it's very easy to assume that we are a certain type of, mid-20s
We're car guys.
person. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's easy to assume that we're car guys.
We're not.
That's the fun part here, is that we need to early dispel this notion, and we're like you, audience. Like a
Yeah,
car movie, I don't know. Am I in the mood for a car movie?
Yeah.
The fun part about this season is that we're going to be forced to watch 10 car movies in a row, and we're going to see what happens to us mentally and physically.
I think
I hope I get stronger.
I'm excited that toxic masculinity can finally be
Yeah.
on my car scale. For the movies that we watch.
Right. Though I think it was
Finally.
on Matthew McConaughey's, though.
Yeah, right. I mean, that's interesting. And I was going to ask you guys, too, what is your experience with cars? Like, what is your car knowledge? Do you have one? You ever been in one of those things?
I do. I do have driven the car.
Yeah.
I've been driving since I was 11, I think. I
Right.
was 11 when I started driving.
Buddy, that's kind of young to drive a car.
Right.
I don't
got
know
pulled
what's
over for the first time when I was
18.
14.
Was that in Alaska or in California?
That was in Alaska, yeah.
Nice.
No, I
14?
started driving when I was 11 because my dad and my brother were hunting and they needed a driver, and you can't drive and hunt as effectively as you can just stick the barrel out the window. So
Are you serious?
I'm 100% serious. So I was off-road driving
And they were
at
firing
11
guns out the window?
with an 11-year-old behind the wheel, yeah.
Fucking sick. Okay.
This just in, Ryan is cool.
Mad Max. Mad Ryan.
Holy
So that's how I
shit.
learned to drive on those
Okay.
on mountains and off-road, really.
You have particularly, I think, the most memorable vehicles of my youth are yours and Jake Buck's.
Yeah.
Geo.
Ryan's car was cool.
The fucking Geo, and then
I had a
the Subaru.
1992 Geo Prism, and that thing could rip
Yeah.
up to 55 miles an hour.
And it would barely hold together.
It was
Yeah.
scary.
So a little story about that car. So I got that car for free. You guys know that from Brittany.
Mm-hmm.
And she's just like, yeah, my uncle doesn't want it anymore. And I was like, what idiot wouldn't want this car? And it had been set on fire. Almost nothing in it worked. The clutch
Yeah.
was hanging on by a bare thread. It was a manual. And it had these racing stripes that were that's spray painted on it by the last
Those were
owner.
sick.
And they gave it an extra, 15 horsepower.
Yeah,
So now it
crazy.
had 30. And the racing stripes, whoever did it taped, to make the design of the stripe on the sides of the stripe, but they didn't tape the windshield. They didn't think that the paint would get onto the windshield. So the stripes actually went onto the glass a little bit. And it was a good car. You had to have the heat on at all times or else it would fucking explode.
Mm-hmm. At all
So in the
times.
summer, it's just windows down.
I also remembered you had these roller coaster seat belts, or it was the racing seat belt that would come over, right?
Right.
And plug in between your legs or something. I forgot.
No.
It was something weird, right?
It was a 2-part seatbelt. The shoulder strap plugged into the door.
Okay, yeah. Right.
and the belt plugged in on the seat, so you could actually leave the door one plugged in, and you only had to do the bottom. And they're like, this way, if you just leave one plugged in, you only have to latch one seatbelt.
You only have to latch one seatbelt normally.
Right.
It was the 90s. This was like peak cocaine. They were trying everything, all right? And some things didn't make it all the way through.
Yeah. By the end of it, it was just held together with bungee straps and zip ties.
R.I.P. Ryan's Geo. Jace, what's your experience with cars? Are you a car guy?
I'm not car guy. Most, I could do all the basic service that's needed on a vehicle, which is actually surprising more than some people. But like mechanically, I know most of the concepts of how a vehicle, like a car, functions and what it needs to, move around.
You're an engineer.
That's about it. If you start throwing fancy words at me for car talk, I'm gone.
You don't listen to NPR's Car Talk.
Didn't know it was
the car repair podcast. Yeah. No, I mean, Jace, I'm probably a little similar. Like I first of all, I don't have my own car. I borrow Amber's, so I don't even have my own car anymore. I realize I've never driven a car. I think past the year 2010. Like I think like I rented one this past summer in Spain. It had like a rear camera, so you can like park with it if you're backing up. I was like, what the fuck is this?
Oh.
And like all this like buttons and shit. I realized like I'm not familiar with like car technology past the year 2010.
Dude.
It's great.
My car drives itself, dude.
That's fucking crazy. Like, because my car growing up was an '05 Subaru. Amber's car we drive now is a 2000, which someone referred to as a vintage the other day, which almost made me die. But like other than that, like I played a lot of Gran Turismo growing up, so like I can probably point at cars and be like, "Yo, that's an NSX." And then strangely enough, like my dad was a mechanic like his whole life. Like he knew how to take apart cars. He was a jet engine mechanic, like total gearhead. And I think I have that like mentality without any of the knowledge. So like I'm very particular about things without being a mechanic at all.
So I am understanding that when you said I haven't driven a car past 2010, you mean
age.
A car newer
Yes.
than 2010.
Never even driven a car. Yeah.
I was about to say,
but
what?
you're right. I live
How
in
did
Los
you get
Angeles.
to high school?
Me?
Yeah. Jace did give me rides.
I don't know that I picked you up.
I think you picked me up
I would
from
drop
school,
you off.
and you would.
Sometimes, Denali.
I just remember driving you home a lot because we had that one squirrel almost intercept mission where a squirrel ran under my car. I didn't have time to react, and you screamed like a banshee, and you were like, "No! You fucking killed it!"
I forgot about that. Did we decide that you killed it?
I think it lived.
Yeah, I hope so. Well, it's probably dead by now, surely. But yeah, I mean, we're not exactly the car fellas here. But like Ryan was saying, we're going to be absorbing a lot of car culture. I would say the movie that we absorbed today had a lot of that. But I also wanted to ask, what are your guys' experience with car movies? Do you like them? Do you have a favorite? What do you guys think about those?
I think that the season that Jace pitched that didn't get picked would be probably more enjoyable in that it was movies with cool cars in them.
Right.
Like iconic cars. And that is great. When a car is a character in the movie, I think is a really good premise. However, just a movie full of car characters is like a little bit less exciting because like the novelty's worn off. Like think about John Wick. That's a car movie.
Right. How is it a car? Is there a car in John Wick?
That's the whole point. They steal his car.
Wasn't they shoot his dog? Wasn't
his
that
dog.
the dog?
Shoot his dog and steal his car.
I feel like the dog was more of the okay, but sure, right. There's the car is part of it.
Yeah, my point's over.
Okay, well there is a certain movie series where it's just cars talking to each other, and that is
Fast and
Cars.
Furious.
They're also vrooming each other too. I mean, there was one car movie that Ryan, you also enjoy this movie, like Drive. We watched in high school a lot. Jace, I think you said you watched that recently too. Drive with Ryan Gosling, bunch of synths, cool scorpion jacket. A lot of cringy dudes on 4chan bought that jacket, and it was really funny on the internet for a while. I was obsessed with that car movie in high school and like part of college. That was kind of like a formative thing. Everyone was into like 80s music and shit.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'll pitch that this season. I think I've seen it enough times. Like I think I might want to do that. But if you guys want to do, that's fine. But like that's kind of the extent of it for me. I never watched Fast and Furious all the way through. I think this was the last. This one we watched today. It was the last one in the entry that I think I've seen.
I
think
saw
I've seen 5.
This movie and the spin-off with
Hobbs and Shaw.
Hobbs and Shaw, which Actually, I don't know if we get around to watching it. I think I could watch it again. It was surprisingly fun to watch.
So what I realized is, Ryan and Jace, you guys kind of took the wind out of my sails with the Fast and Furious and the car season. Because now, if I wanted to pitch Fast and Furious after this season, I don't know, man. I think that'd be a lot of car
People
stuff.
would
It's
think
like
you're a sicko.
But then that's kind of fine, right? Because it's a different scale. We wouldn't be rating it as a car movie. We'd be pissed at you, and we'd lose all our viewers.
If we were
I think it'd be
watching
interesting
in like a vacuum, right? You might almost be interested to watch the rest of them because there's lore in this movie, and you're like, oh, a little sprinkle.
I would love to talk about the lore. What if at the end of the season we end up fucking loving car movies? And we become car
that's what
guys.
I'm saying.
Yeah. Jace, did you have any car movies that you liked growing up or anything like that? Did you watch car movies?
Well, I know, and I messaged this to you. This was might as well say it now because it might happen in 2 episodes. I mentioned as a joke that I was going to pitch Thelma and Louise,
right?
Which is arguably a car movie, I think.
Yeah.
Obviously, kind of almost feels weird that I would be the person pitching to watch Thelma and Louise during the car movie.
That was surprising, Jace, but that's cool, yeah.
It is actually the first. I was in the honors college in college, which basically just meant you take a bunch of jack-off classes instead of general eds. And I took like 4 film review movie classes. And the first honors class I ever took was like film literature. And I think Thelma and Louise was the first movie we watched, and I'm excited to have the possibility of revisiting it.
Full circle, baby. Use that degree.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a couple of movies. There's a lot of car movies out there. And for folks at home, you probably know what a car movie is. It's a movie with fucking cars in it, okay? And we'll kind of build our car meter, which comes to my next order of business. What do you guys want to call the meter? We've had like the Ben meter. What do you guys want to call this? Like the speedometer? Like there's a lot of meters on a car.
I think we should get away from those ones. We can
more
talk
wild.
about gauges, you know?
The gas tank.
Oh, that's not bad. But that's on
There's something
car.
there.
Gas gauge. I think as we talk about this, something will come up organically.
We'll discuss it. We'll figure out the season like we always do. But folks, we hope you guys will enjoy the car season and hope you guys will follow along at home.
I think more importantly, for a lot of our listeners out there, they might not know what a car is.
That's true. That is true,
And
Jace.
I think I might need to explain it to them.
Okay, let's break down. Let's define our terms
This
here.
might be too long of a story, but if you would bequeath me with maybe 2 minutes,
please.
I would. Once upon a time, in a lush green land known as Equitopia, horses roamed freely, embodying grace, strength, and wild beauty. They galloped across meadows, their hooves pounding the earth in perfect harmony with the wind. But destiny had something extraordinary in store for them. In the heart of Equitopia, a mystical forest held secrets beyond imagination. Deep within its depths, a magical pond shimmered with an otherworldly light. One fateful day, a group of horses ventured to the pond, curious about its enchantment. As they approached, a radiant mist engulfed them, imbibing them with an unexpected gift, the power of evolution. Slowly, these horses began to change, their limbs elongated and transformed, their bodies adapted, and their hooves reshaped into wheels. Their beautiful coats turned into gleaming metal, reflecting the sun's rays, and thus, the first equine vehicles were born. Anyway, that's why they call it horsepower, because horses evolved into cars.
For the longest time, I thought you were doing like the plot of the movie Cars.
Folks, the WGA writer strike is currently happening. Please support your local writers. We desperately need them to start working again. Where did you get that, Jace?
I think you made it up.
Shut up.
I think some machine made it up. Is that
a
right,
machine
Jace?
might have made it up.
Support your local unions, folks. Don't let the machines write everything. Honestly, pretty sick origin story. Good job, machine. We're all fucked.
It goes on to call them carsequins.
Fuck, that's so good.
Carsequine.
Yeah, so there you have it, folks. That is what a car is. An evolved creature, a beast turned machine, if you will. Have you guys seen Transformers? The Beasts Rising, or whatever the fuck it's called?
Is that even out yet?
It's out, dog. It's been dominating the news.
Really?
It took
Wait,
over IMAX.
That's kind of your news.
It took over
I've been
IMAX.
following, world events.
It's taking over all the IMAX theaters. Everyone's pissed because they want to see Into the Spider-Verse in IMAX, and it only had it for a week, and everyone's seeing Transformers: Rise of the Beasts. Are you guys going to see it?
I see just a few movies in theaters nowadays, so
Yeah.
probably
Yeah,
not.
it's not going to be the one that I go see.
All right, I thought it was cool. You guys see Beast Machines growing up? I mean, it's a fucking dope.
We have a drive-in theater. I could watch a car movie in a car.
Oh, holy shit.
Can we think about? Because I think we talked before about like the Cars universe. Like, can we think about movies maybe that would be better with cars?
Chasing Amy.
Private Ryan.
We could have a Normandy Beach with cars. The machine guns could also be alive, and the boats as well.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
The
that's
Matrix.
tight. The Matrix. Okay, so
They hook up cars and use them as batteries.
Oh.
That actually would make sense.
That would.
what, are the machines humans? Is this some kind of like car
No,
propaganda?
they're also cars.
Yeah, signs.
Oh,
No.
signs.
Just
There's-
because of the
oh.
double entendre, I guess.
Turn
Now
signals.
we're good.
We'll call it turn signals.
Oh.
Oh, signals, dude. Signals
Yeah,
is good.
signals. That's good. Yeah.
Or road
And it's about.
signs.
He's like, you guys think there's cars in space?
Nah. Well, actually,
There is a car. God damn it! I don't want to talk about that guy.
Yeah, fuck that guy.
The Lion King.
The Lion King. The Lion Car. No wait, the Car King.
The Lion Car.
Car Lion King.
There were car bugs in cars, so there are animal cars in cars, so it could be
Jesus
the lion
Christ,
car.
there were.
Wait, there are car bugs?
Yeah, there.
Oh my
We need to
God.
watch Cars. We need to
Hold
watch.
on,
We need
hold
to
on.
watch
Yeah,
Cars.
hold
Because
the fuck
the lore
Holy
alone.
shit! Wait, so every living species is a car?
They make
or
a
like bacteria
they
cars.
they make a little VW bug joke.
Yeah.
Who made the cars?
God? Who is a car?
Car God. Wait, so hang on, like.
And on the seventh day, he made them in his image.
Wait,
I don't know
does
what
that
you're
imply
not
that
getting about
if
it.
God is real in our real world, does that imply
Yeah.
our real God made
Yeah.
a movie with a car god in it?
He allowed.
He thinks it's hilarious.
Honestly, I'm not mad about this one, guys. I'm gonna let it go.
That was fucking funny. Because I mean, someone that was in that same Reddit post a long time ago. Not to copy it, but like there was a Pope mobile in like Cars 3, which implies
Oh.
Car Jesus and Car Heaven
And
and
car
Hell.
assassination.
The car
attempts.
creation myth.
All cars go to heaven.
Boom. So it's about a car who's
dog
gonna go to
cars.
hell. What?
Car dogs, because there was a dog in the.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So they're trying to get back in. So a rogue car is trying to help another car.
In the heaven.
Fucking A.
It also implies the existence of car devil.
Car hell. What is car hell? Like public transportation?
Indiana.
Trains? Nice.
Junkyard.
Nice.
When it,
Junkyard.
when they get crushed
getting
into
compressed into
squares. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
compressed
man.
into cubes.
Brave little toaster?
Oh.
So car, brave little toaster.
Brave car
little,
toaster.
so brave little
He's still
car.
a toaster.
So it's all of those appliances are all cars.
Yeah, wait, aren't we supposed to be thinking about movies that would be improved, not just movies that would be funny?
I think it would be funny, and that's an improvement
Is there a movie where the plot would be
Okay.
solved?
if they were all cars.
If there are cars.
Homeward Bound, because they can just drive home.
yeah, dude, that's a good one.
Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
It'd be pretty fast.
Lord of the Rings. But don't forget that the Nazguls would have cars too.
They don't have cars.
Dude, do you think
Jesus
do you think
Christ.
the Nazgul would be like motorcycles? I feel
Oh,
like
that'd
they'd
be
be
so
like
sick.
dirt. I feel
First.
like they'd be like dirt bikes.
Yeah. And then they fly planes afterwards.
To get back from the
Wait,
the
but
Carcano.
wait. But these don't have people in them, right? They're like
No.
The cars
They're
are
sentient?
sentient.
Yeah.
Fuck.
They're no, in the beginning it's just a motorcycle, and then later the motorcycle is driving a plane.
Are there motorcycles and cars? Are there?
I think we can replace the horses with motorcycles. So you have like the Riders of Rohan
Hold
and their
on.
cars on motorcycles.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. But are there motorcycles in cars?
I don't
We
think
should just make a
there's
movie called
anything else.
Motorcycles.
Yeah, motos.
Everybody's
yeah,
motorcycle.
Everyone's a motorcycle.
Even the cars.
Okay. I feel like we're reaching the edge of this bit. So, chef. And instead of chef, it's car.
Oh,
And it's a guy who wants to start his own
car business.
food truck, but he's a car who wants to be a food truck. I don't know.
Oh, that's kind of fucked up because the food truck would be sentient. It'd
And
be a
then,
car
wait, where's the-
inside of a car cooking
And the beef would come from
to
cow
feed
cars.
I think they just drink motor oil and use gasoline. But
Okay. All right. Any other good ones?
Jurassic car.
Jurassic car. We resurrected older cars. We put them in this park.
Oh.
That's actually not that bad of an idea.
This is a Model T. Oh God, where'd it go?
It doesn't have brakes.
Oh. When do you guys think it was like a pretty sweet invention, like the guy who invented brakes for cars? Because like obviously like the first car probably was made to go, right? And at some point they were like,
We should stop.
We should stop because like the stop is already like obvious because we're always stopping, you know.
Well, which came first?
I think it's the go.
Well, the
like
horses,
the guy.
and the people knew that horses could stop, so they thought the
Put a horse
cars
in front of it.
that evolved from them must be able to stop.
Yeah, I'm just like trying to imagine different car inventions like before someone thought about them.
Or like alternate history, go into the
Yeah.
past and assassinate the person who, maybe not assassinate, convince them to go to a different career.
Right.
The person who invented something in the car. What would
No
be the
windshield
worst?
wipers.
Or
Where it's like,
windshield.
God damn. No windshields. And no one thought of it.
That's kind of a no-brainer.
Stupid. Do we want to start talking about this movie? Because I feel like we're going to talk about a lot.
And I feel like we're just going to riff on cars if we don't start.
Yeah, I think we're dangerously close to just having this whole podcast be this. I mean, Ryan, this was your season.
Oh, boy.
You won the Wheel of Chaos for the third record 3 times in a row.
Yeah, well, every now and then the little man gets a win.
The scales hath rebalanced after a long drought for Ryan. So I'm not mad about your streak, but tell us why you decided to pick this movie in particular.
Well, I do remember this movie from middle school, right? So when it came out, it was the coolest thing, right? Because before this, you had Fast and Furious, which was point A to point B. And then Tokyo Drift came out, and not only was it like my first experience to like a culture other than America,
Right.
but also they don't just go in a straight line. It was like this crazy idea that just like going fast isn't the whole point. And there was a lot more style in this kind of stuff. And I don't know. I remember watching this and just being totally enthralled. Like there's this, what? They do what in Tokyo? Like, I want to go to Tokyo, thinking that it was like actually like this,
Right.
Because it's one of the only, I think it is the only movie in the Fast and Furious series that gets like called out for location based.
Right.
And the location kind of ends up being a character, and that adds a lot of actual plot to this movie. There's a lot of, the trajectory of this movie is entirely dependent on the location. So, I don't know. It felt like the natural first car movie for me because it was probably, apart from the original, probably was like my first real car movie.
In a way, yeah, this movie was kind of a cultural touchstone. Like, I feel like this movie kind of brought drifting into, like, the American lexicon for a lot of people. Drift mania kind of started after this, but also I feel like it kind of brought, I mean, something that I noticed was, like, Asian culture being kind of cool and obviously fetishized by, like, white audiences in America. I think it kind of started here. Like, this movie was fucking huge, and I think this was the first time that I started seeing people think, like, Asian shit was cool, to like, you have like different Asian heroes that weren't just butts of jokes. I think that I noticed something like that when this movie came out.
I could see that for the people around our age, definitely. The same way that, like, I don't want to call him out here, but you know, I think like Jake Buck kind of internalized drifting as a hobby and like probably a major Ken Block enthusiast. I know we watched a lot of drifting YouTube videos when we were growing up, and I think it would be the same thing to say that this movie could have been like that Slammer, the Tokyo song, and the location being like, holy shit, this is it.
And what's interesting too is like, I don't know if you guys seen on Rotten Tomatoes, they have all of the Fast and Furious movies ranked, just in order of tomato meter. This one is near the bottom.
Really?
What?
This is 38% certified splat.
Wait, what?
Which is crazy, right?
Man, we're going to have to discuss that when we get in.
Yeah,
because,
we will.
Number 1 is Fast and Furious 7, which I've never seen.
Well, of course not.
Is that the one with the
course.
submarine?
I have no idea what it's about.
It's not about cars.
All of the modern ones are in like the top 5, and the bottom ones are like the old ones, which is surprising to me. Like I
think it's
thought
kind of
this was well-received.
self-selecting though. The people that go watch them nowadays love the series.
Right. This also kind of begs the question: is this kind of a de facto dadcore season? Like, it's like
a middle schooler's wet dream combined with a dadcore season. It's like I wasn't kidding when I said that my meter might have like toxic masculinity as a point, because
Right.
it's gonna be like the hose that these movies are kind of getting their sauce from, I guess.
The sauce. Yeah.
I hope not. I think that there's enough movies for us to do, like, Herbie Fully Loaded and like
Hell yeah.
Speed
Yeah,
Racer
for sure.
and stuff to get some, like, let's get some
I'd love
diversity
Speed
in
Racer.
here.
If we chose only Fast and Furious movies, yeah, it would be more correct for me to say what I just said. But the fact that I told you I might pitch Thelma and Louise is kind of counter to the point.
Let's hope we get there. And that also might be up to our toxic masculinity to get there. Ryan, I mean, do you want to get into the synopsis of this movie?
Right.
What happened to this thing?
So we watched 2006's The Fast and the
Thank you.
Furious Tokyo Drift, rated PG-13. This was a movie about a teenager from America. That's right, finally getting some representation. He's really sent over to Tokyo because to live with his dad. He gets in a lot of trouble in America. He can't make through high school without racing and getting kicked out and, getting the cops called. So this is the last resort, kind of like before military school or jail thing. And when he gets to Tokyo, he's expecting, there to be no car culture because it's all public transportation. He's got to take the train to school. He's got to walk all over the place. He doesn't know any
sweet.
Japanese. So to his surprise, some other American expats take him under his wing and show him the hidden car subculture in Tokyo. And boy, is it different than America, because them boys go sideways. And it's starring Lucas Black as our main character, Sean. And in a smaller but very important role, we got Lil Bow Wow.
Yes, big. His name's Bow Wow at this point.
Oh, he's Big Bow Wow.
He's all grown up. Yes.
Yeah,
Just regular Bow Wow.
he plays Twinkie, who is kind of his liaison into the underworld.
Yeah.
Might have the coolest car, TBD. And then, he kind of gets in trouble. He gets in trouble because his big American mouth, can't quit. And he wants to hit on the Drift King's girl. So that's what he does. And eventually he ends up owing debts to these underworld racers and getting in trouble with the Drift King, who's part of the Yakuza. And of course, you can guess it. What happens? How is the conflict resolved? With a race.
With a race.
With a race. So our boy has to race the Drift King for a title to see who is the new Drift King. And who has to leave Tokyo.
Drift King is such a fucking sick title.
I
DK.
know, dude. Okay, so can we start there? Because my favorite scene, probably the most famous scene in this movie,
that everybody has heard the lore of.
Yeah, is Bow Wow's scene. In
Oh.
this. Yeah, I think JC going somewhere else. Is Bow Wow's scene when he's showing up to the car show, and Sean has already talked trash to DK,
Right.
and hasn't said what DK stands for yet. And they get in the elevator because Sean has already accepted
This, yeah, okay.
an invitation to race, and they get in there, the elevator, to go up to where the race is starting because they're in like a parking garage. And he's like, "You know what DK stands for, right?" And Sean goes, "Donkey Kong." And then, Bow Wow says, "No, Drift King." And he's like, "What, drift? What do you mean drift?" And then the elevator doors open, and it's like, dun, 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 and the cars go sideways, like, in front of the elevator door.
That's so
And
sick.
that is, like, a really cool introduction to the plot of this movie, just showing how different it is than other movies that might take place in an open field or like a city street. This is like in a parking garage. This whole scene is happening. And the way the scene is like layered on top of each other, it shows like the verticality that Tokyo has, and it builds it into the movie. And I just really like this movie.
I really like that scene too. Go ahead. What was yours?
The clever use of, we've seen a lot of fish out of water scenes because we reviewed 90 movies. And the clever use of the elevator that's like continually used throughout that race in the following scenes of them just back against the wall and him being like, I think that's a pretty clever piece of filmmaking.
I like that too. And like, you're fucked when you're about to do a sport and they're called like Tennis King and you're like, "What's tennis?" And you're like about to show up. Like how fucked you are. It's, "Oh, the king of the thing we're about to do." Yeah, that's what he's called. to talk about this movie real quick, it was released June 16th, 2006. Okay, we established that. Can you guys guess? I mean, this had a pretty big opening weekend. I think it did a little better than they thought it would. It opened number 3. Number 1 is a different movie that we could end up watching this season.
Oh. Dukes of Hazzard?
Not Dukes of Hazzard. This opened number 1. It made like $33 million this weekend.
These are kind of like the dark times, like the middle school
2006.
age is like
Right.
I don't know if my brain was, it was obviously developing.
But you weren't in control of your own finances.
Yeah.
Right.
And
right.
Is it a comedy?
Yeah, I would say, yeah, you can describe it as a comedy.
A car movie comedy?
And there's a lot of cars. I'll say there's a shitload of
Talladega
cars.
Nights?
It's not Talladega Nights. It's even more cars than that.
Is it Cars?
It's Cars.
Oh.
Right, you got it. Cars was number 1 that weekend. Number 2 that weekend is another comedy. This is one we've all seen multiple times. Very big movie.
Step Brothers?
It's not Step Brothers. It is a wrestling movie.
Nacho Libre.
Nacho Libre. Jace, you got it. Ryan and Jace are tied for this box office. Jace was undefeated last season. Let's see if he continues this season. Number 3 was, of course, Tokyo Drift. Number 4 was a movie we've seen on this podcast.
Wow.
So many to choose from.
I'll give you another hint, and you guys better be ready to answer this. It was in the Keanu season.
The Replacements?
The Lake House?
The Lake House. Jace has it.
Go!
This whole weekend, Nacho Libre, Tokyo Drift, Lake House. Amazing opening
That's a good
weekend.
weekend, dude.
Solid, dude. What the hell?
You don't get
Triple feature. You think the same audience went to all 3 of those?
I mean, I went to shit, dude. I might have.
I think my fucking middle school class went on a field trip to see Nacho Libre. Yeah.
Can we get into this movie and what were your guys' expectations going into it? Did you remember it really well? I mean, Jace, you said you had watched it recently.
I watched the movie like 2 months ago.
Yeah,
for some
same.
reason.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, I watched this around when it came out. I remember seeing the commercials for it. My friends and I in middle school were excited about it, and we rented it from Blockbuster as soon as it was available, and we watched it. And I think the most iconic scene is what Ryan was talking about, was when they showed up to DK's place. The music's playing, everyone's partying, and you're like, holy shit, and you hear that song that's like a meme now. It really stuck in my head.
What is that song?
It's Teriyaki Boys. It's just called Tokyo Drift.
And it was in every DJ mix for the next 20
Dude,
years.
it's actually bangs. I listen to
Yeah.
it now quite a bit. And I will say, I know every word of this movie. I've seen this movie probably 10 times.
Nice. Have you seen any of the other Fast and Furious? Have you seen them all the way through?
I think I've seen the first 5.
Your... Okay, so this is your Fast and Furious movie. I feel like there's something for everybody.
Yeah.
Maybe in each one people pick out favorites.
Oh, yeah.
And this is your
This is oh yeah. This is a spiritual key to my upbringing, this movie in particular.
Nice. Jace, do you remember seeing this movie?
I remember seeing the movie, and then again, I watched it pretty recently. I think, when I think of this, I think of playing a shitload of Need for Speed Most Wanted.
Yes.
I at the time that this movie came out, and at the time the PS2 was popular, racing games and the cars in this movie were just the hot topic.
Racing was fucking cool in the 2000s, man. And I'm looking at this movie. It looks cool as shit. We talked about Lucas Black playing the lead, Sean Boswell. The first thing me and Amber thought watching this movie was, this man is not in high school.
Right?
This guy looks like he's 30 and owns a business, dude.
Has the biggest forehead we've
He looks like
seen.
Frankenstein. It's fucking crazy, dude. The DJ Shadow montage of him just bad boy walking through the high school with all this moody
so
shit.
Good. Dude,
It was pure art.
Dude, we unironically had a discussion about how good that opening scene is. It's not bad at all. And I want to say it outright. I unironically love this movie, and I think it's gorgeous. I vibe with it. Not only that, but I think it's, for a mainstream movie, there's a lot of choices. There's a lot of choices made here, and fuck yeah, give me them. I'm so bored of these movies that just pitch it right down the middle. And Sean season, as much as I love my boy Sean William Scott, we got kind of 10 movies right over home plate, and I'm excited.
It's not Sean's fault. Yeah.
It's not Sean's fault, but I'm excited.
Yeah. Ryan, I mean, I agree. This is a very vibey, stylized movie. And when we were watching this, we were in it kind of all the way until like maybe like the first line was said. And it's when
Jesus.
Lucas, he says, well, it's not the ride, it's the rider. I was like, oh no.
Why didn't he say driver?
Also, just like, that's not a real accent. There's
Dude,
no fucking way, right?
That is I was gonna complain about this. My man
Yeah.
was born in Alabama, and
No way.
he straight up he couldn't leave it. And it's like they're probably like, can you like any other way? He's like, no, I can't pretty much talk like this the whole time.
It was so thick. I thought it was like a caricature. Ryan, you mentioned Boomer Graham last season. The badass fight scene, big on Boomer Graham between the old muscle car and the jock. In that scene where the jock throws the rock through the back of the guy's thing, and he's like, "I'll race you for it," or that whole scene, and then the cheerleader's like winner gets me, or that like whatever the fuck that was.
That was the first 10 minutes of this movie, beyond what Ryan described as being beautiful, was the worst writing
Yes.
that has ever been written.
Holy shit, dude! I was like, me and Amber were convulsing. And I think about the time where the forgot her name. Like it's like I think she was a cheerleader.
Cindy.
Cindy. She was like, "Why don't you boys let your cars do the talking?" Amber was like, "I don't think I can do this. I don't think I can watch this."
Why don't you nice boys let your cars do the talking in the most deadpan?
I was convulsing with cringe in this movie.
I mean, I don't know, man. I see it a little bit differently.
Right.
Just because the idea is this is in the Fast and the Furious universe. And there's this thing in the Fast and Furious universe. When someone challenges you to a race, you have to do it. And so the way I interpret that scene is, and you can actually kind of maybe rationalize this with like toxic masculinity and everything, but like there are these two people who, no matter what, they're in a position where they have to say yes. So she knowingly says this and not being like, oh, well, how about it? Let's really think this through in like a nuanced way. Mm-hmm. Like the idea is that he wants to race, the main character. He's going to race to say yes because number one, he wants the attention of this girl, and he's obviously the weirdo. But second, the jock guy has to do it because it's his dad's car and his whole family's been insulted and all this kind of stuff. So I don't mind that it's cringy because the whole premise is like stupid. And I can't be like, well, I would never get in that situation. Well, no shit.
Yeah, right. I like that. Like, it's like a universe with rules, right? It's a self-contained thing. I mean, there is, of course, like an element of camp in Fast and Furious. That's why people like it, right? Like, you watch it because it's kind of dumb and it kind of doesn't make sense. But sometimes as a viewer, it's like you slip out of that every once in a while. And if you're not in that mode of like, okay, you're like, holy shit. And especially this early,
It reminds me of like Pokemon or something. When a trainer approaches you and they see you and you're like, oh, I don't want to battle, but I literally have to. Like the game is making me battle this person because they saw me. And then you like go to this whole like, din, 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 and there's like the fight music. Like that's what happens in the Fast and the Furious movies when someone proposes a race.
You have to.
And I'm not watching the Pokemon movies. Like, why the hell are they fighting? It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
That's fair. I don't really. Obviously, I want to see the cars. I just wish that the actors sucked a little less at what they're being paid to do. And I do think it's funny.
Race, baby.
I think it's really funny that like I've seen Hobbs and Shaw. That's the only movie I'm going to say that I've seen of the Fast and Furious, right? And that's I think 2 years ago. The fact that at any time in one of these races you can just decide, you know what, I'm going to run him off the road and kill him is an option. It's like, okay.
I love that like brief shot of the car hitting the outhouse and it sprays shit and toilet water straight at the camera while Rob Zombie plays, which is like such a good encapsulation of like the whole series. There's a scene where the girl looks over to like the evil jock guy and with true indignation at the guy losing, and it's like, I thought you loved me, in a way that's like not like I think they should have done a different take maybe with that line, because she's saying it was just like, I thought you loved me. And the guy's like, "Ah!" And he like fucking drives his car like off the fucking road to kill that other guy. It just that part was just like the logic of this movie is insane.
Well, you can make your car go faster at any point in the Fast and the Furious universe.
Yeah, there's always a button that makes it just
Well,
double the speed.
there's a couple rules. So the first rule, and maybe this should go into our car meter, but this is a Fast and the Furious movie. I don't want to like make all car movies follow this, but like if someone offers to race you, you have to say yes.
Yes.
2, there's a button to make it go faster.
Of course.
And also, the car goes exactly how fast you need it to go. Like, you can will that car to go into the red and go faster.
It's like the Speed Force.
That's interesting. And I think the one thing, from what you just pitched is not all these car movies have to be racing car movies, right?
Right.
I don't think so. Yeah. But of course, this race scene, leads to our boy Sean, not Sean William Scott, but Sean in this movie. He gets in trouble. He gets caught by the cops. He is in a fucking horrendous car wreck at the end of this movie that should have killed them all. Fucking crazy. There was like no airbags. And then he gets sent to Japan, right? And this is kind of where the fish out of water stuff starts. And I was kind of surprised. It seems like they actually were in Japan for these scenes. Like, it seemed kind of legit.
So they did film partially.
Okay.
In, I don't want, God, I'm drawing a blank now, Shibuya. But it was primarily just LA.
Those mountain scenes, 100% LA. Yeah. Like, I feel like I've been on that street.
So can we talk a little bit about the intricacies of the plot? So initially, right, he's brought into the subculture through Twinkie, who is Bow Wow's character. And then, but that's not really the main guy who runs the rest of the show. What happens is he crashes. Okay, Wolf.
Crashes
what
Han's
happens
car.
is, he's gifted a car by Han for the race. And Han is DK's kind of like number 2. He's kind of like the other guy running the ring. And we never see Han race, really. So he's kind of just like a mentor. And it seems like everybody kind of has their own crews. Like Han has his own garage and his own crew. And DK has his own crew. And so...
Or is that... Sorry, you have that thing where you like... not tribal.
Factions?
Factions.
It's a faction movie.
God damn it.
Holy shit.
You put this back in his head, man.
Oh, yeah,
weird
dude.
Thing.
Okay. New meter.
No.
So Han's faction absorbs Sean because Sean crashes Han's car in the race with DK. Obviously loses. So then the whole movie he has to repay the debt by, winning races and learning how to drift. What was you guys' feelings about Han as a character?
He was fine. It was kind of hard to gauge what his intentions were, too. Like, I wasn't really sure if I liked his character, I think, for a while.
Yeah, I think I liked the subplot of him ripping off DK and thinking that, like, his uncle would notice and that coming out. I'll be honest, my primary thought of interest is that while focused in Japan, 2 of the, like, both Han, played by Sung Kang?
Yeah.
Sung Kang?
It's Korean. Yeah.
Korean and Leonard Nam, who played Morimoto, the third, I would say, for DK, both South Korean.
That was part of his plot, though.
Was to be Korean?
Yeah, he wasn't Japanese.
I did end up, yes. Han is not meant to be Japanese. Until I picked that up, I was like, there are a lot of non-Japanese actors playing Japanese characters.
Well, he says, "This is my Mexico,"
right,
implying that he came to Japan to escape the law from somewhere else.
Right, and the character Han has been in a ton of that director's movies. He was even in movies before Fast and Furious,
right? Which
is kind of cool. He's like a recurring thing. I heard he's like a fan favorite in this movie too. This is kind of
he's my favorite character. Oh man, the tears fly. This movie.
That dude can eat some candy. That was actually my first thought. In that scene in the first race, they have, I think, 7 shots of him putting a relatively large-sized candy in his mouth, and then what would not be any more than 10 seconds later in universe, him eating another one. And I'm just like, holy shit, dude.
This guy's putting them away. I heard they wrote that in there, right? Like where he was constantly supposed to be eating like Brad Pitt. Yeah.
Every single scene, he's shoving food into his mouth, and I love it. Like it's noodles, cool. It's chips, and like he is just so cool, and he just wants to hang out and race cars. He's not into like the whole drama thing.
Han was a cool character, but like to talk about Sean's character real quick, my man needs fucking therapy. Like how quickly do you get into a fucking race? He's like in there for one day. He's already racing for a girl like again, and he's totaled like 4 cars in like what 2 weeks. This dude has a problem, and like the way he talks to people, the way he talks to the Yakuza is just so insane to me. It took me out so many times in this movie.
It's kind of I think part of it is it's a car movie and it's a Fast and the Furious movie, and there has to be a character who's obsessed. Like it's an addiction.
Mm-hmm. Right.
But then also he's an American, and like they didn't want the American to be the perfectly well-adjusted, awesome, cool, knows everything about everybody character. That's obviously like Han. And so the fish out of water jokes are somewhat appreciated just because I like that a lot of it was kind of Sean, a lot of it was like a stand-in for middle America. What if you were put into Tokyo, but also you were freaking good at racing?
I thought this was a free country.
Yeah,
Dude,
it's like,
oh my God. The throwaway line. Don't even.
God.
I thought, and I'm surprised, we're still in like the first 30 minutes of the movie that we're
Jesus
talking about.
Christ.
To be fair, there's kind of a void of just like car-centric 80s montage type training that goes on, I think, in the middle. But the embarrassment was palpable when Takeshi drifts up the ramp and it's like super cool and you're finishing that race and he finishes and then you see Sean like and you're like, he's just like looking straight ahead like with a stern look, and I was like, oh man.
And then Han comes up and just says, don't leave town.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And
Jesus,
that was
I
pretty
shit my
cool.
pants.
Yeah, that was a good delivery.
I like how Sean was like, he totally just like wrecked this dude's car, got into a fight with this Yakuza guy, but later he sees that Yakuza guy again and he's like totally cool with him being there. Or he's like, oh, hey man, what's up?
Yeah, that's what I mean. Racing is just racing. It's no offense to somebody. If you get in a boxing match with somebody and you lose, you're not like mad at them afterwards. It's a boxing match. For him, race is life, baby.
Are you talking about when they go to the little casino type deal?
I think so, yeah, where they go to the back room.
I think that was probably more of a mutual respect thing for Han than anything. Well, actually, he beat his ass, so maybe he doesn't give a fuck.
Yeah, he's just like, nice job, idiot.
Did you guys anticipate or incorporate the final race being a part of this season? Like, as a concept, the final race.
Like, if there is one, or if there is it good?
Yeah, more of like, is the movie going to result in a winner-takes-all race at the end of the movie? And is that going to be like a third of it?
I like
that's
that.
a good meter, yeah. I feel like we might run into that, and that's going to heavily depend on the types of car movies we're grabbing, too.
Yeah.
But a car movie, think about this, like, not every car movie has to have a final race.
Right.
But it does the perfect, stereotypical car movie have a final race.
Does Ford versus Ferrari have a final race? I think it's about a race. I think it's literally about a race.
I think in these car movies need to have a grandiose last third. I don't know that it needs to be a race, but like something pivotal.
The car is used.
Definitely has to be
some
utilized.
sort of
it's a car
like,
movie.
Yes.
Winner takes all, die or not.
Do or
sort of
die.
thing. There we go.
Drive or die.
Drive or die.
Can I also ask another question?
Right.
Should they have cast Sean William Scott?
Yeah.
Instead,
he would
as the main
fit
character.
fucking perfectly in this movie. You don't even have to change the name. I feel like Sean brings such like a stereotypically American energy. Like, I feel like he can bring this thing that's kind of like this boyish naivete and totally be that foil to Han. Like, I feel like it could work in this movie.
I thought that too, because he had the southern sort of thing. He can do kind of like a boy from the country.
He could do it.
You
Yeah.
know? Probably
He's
a
done
lot more
Country Mac.
subtle.
Even if you took Country Mac and put him in this movie, I think it would work like 10% better than this guy. One thing to mention, Ryan, you mentioned like the editing in this movie, the way the drifts feel in this and in the race, it feels really cool.
It feels really cool.
It's not just a camera pulled back where you just see the car moving. Like you see the cuts between like the e-brake and then the pedal shifting and then the person like jerking, and you see the drift, and it feels like you're in the car when it happens. And I remember seeing that as like an 11-year-old and being like, I can drift. Yeah, I could totally do that. I could it's easy, man. Like, it's just, you feel it in the car. It's super dynamic. And even the end race for me, I think felt a little long, but that dynamic in there, I think helped a lot.
I had mentioned earlier the little like piece of lore in this that I thought you were going to talk about. Is the Drift King is in this movie. The actual like Tokyo Drift King is supposed to be the guy that's fishing on the dock. And
no way.
They pulled in a huge group of people that are like that were superstars in drifting to get this movie right. And then they were like, listen, we need you to get more people into the drifting culture and bring them in. And I think if you were to watch like the commentary on this, the behind the scenes, a lot of the care pleasantly was put into like them being like, how can we make these drift scenes actually work? And I was having a hard time deciphering some of the articles, not really well written, but I think the scene where they drift up the ramp, I think that was real. I think
most of it was.
I think one of them actually did that, and then in the interview they were like, "Yeah, it's our hobby."
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, because I think the stunt double for Sean was probably Tanner Faust, who is like a legit driver. He's like a Ken Block sort of figure. Mm-hmm. And then what I liked is that there were shots that were obviously CGI incorporated, but it's not the era of the drone yet.
Right.
Could you imagine how much different they would do this movie if they could just put a camera on a drone and fly it around and shoot movies and stuff? Like they had to like really wreck cars in this movie because like a lot of times you mess up the stunts.
He said that, I don't know if it was Kiichi Tsuchiya, who was the drift king, the guy on the dock, who was like, yo, you call that drifting? One of them was like, oh yeah, we didn't crash any cars unless they asked us to.
Shit.
They were like, yeah, we barely wrecked anything at all. And that was really important for them because so much of the budget goes into these vehicles, and a lot of them are very custom, that like creating a new front quarter panel for a car, if you do wreck it, would add so much time.
Man, that Veilside RX-7 is dope.
Yeah.
Okay, good transition.
Favorite car.
Do you guys have a favorite car from this movie? And then do you have a favorite car in real life?
I like Neela's Mazda RX-8 because of the blue to dark blue transition.
Oh, I thought you were going to say the Wankel.
I don't know if I could even name a single car that was in that movie. Like, I just know what they physically looked like.
The Mustang?
In that movie. I don't really usually like muscle cars. Like, I'm not a muscle car dude. I think I liked Han's car. It was like the orange and black.
Yeah, that's the one. That's the Veilside RX-7.
Okay, yeah, that one was pretty sick. I think I remember thinking that one was cool.
What about DK's cars?
His
so
Nissan
he drove a couple
Fairlady
Z350Zs.
Yeah.
Those things are dope, dude. The silver one, the silver 350Z is really cool.
I think you guys are car guys, man. You calling out a lot of different cars
this was
here.
particular. I put probably like 45 minutes into making sure I knew what the cars in the movie were because I thought that would be important. I was like, oh
nice.
Shit.
It's good prep, Jace.
The car they gave Sean, I think, was a Lancer, Mitsubishi Lancer Evo.
Evo 9.
And the car talk, they do is like, why don't you put up this car? And he's like, well, not if you put up the Skyline. And he's like, oh yeah, that red Evo over there, that's yours. And like, they didn't dumb it down.
Right.
They never even mentioned like the make of the car. They talk lingo. And I really like that because it's kind of hard to follow.
The work they put into this shows. You feel immersed in this. As far as favorite car, do you guys have one?
I do have a singular favorite car.
What's your favorite?
The Jaguar F-Type.
Oh. Jaguar F-Type. I'll Google that. Luxury sports car. It looks cool, man. I think I've seen this before.
You probably have. You live in LA. There's a really cool video of the sounds that they make, the engine, because it's one of the reasons I like it is because of the sound. And they specifically engineered the way that the exhaust and everything in the engine is shaped so that it sounds cool. It's not just like, not just loud, but like it sounds cool. And most people think of sound as like something that you need to get rid of, or like it's an afterthought, like doesn't really matter going into engineering, but like the fact that they engineer the car differently to make it sound different is like really neat. There's a sound button on it that opens like flaps to make it even louder.
Oh my god, that's terrible.
No, it's really cool. It's not the bad kind of like
it's not it's not like straight piping.
No,
a car,
it's not like
so
that
it just
all.
sounds like
it's like more deep, like a growl. It's pretty cool.
Nice. Jace, do you have a favorite car?
Kind of, if I could have a car, it'd be a G-Wagon. And it'd be an all-electric G-Wagon.
Dude.
Like, if we're talking about sounds, the G-Wagon's door is engineered to sound a specific way upon closing.
Really?
Yeah.
That's sweet, man. I mean, honestly, like, for a while, I did have, like, a lot of cars that I liked, but I've fallen out of the car shit, man. I like public transit, baby.
Oh, yeah,
I like
cars.
fucking
You simultaneously live in the biggest car city in the world, but also like a place where you don't want to have a car.
You will never find a place where people complain about cars more than LA. 1 hour on our highways, you will be convinced that public transit was a better idea. I think for a while, I liked the Bugatti Veyron. I think it's just because it looked fucking sick and it's fast as shit. I saw like the Top Gear episodes on that one, and just it looks like a fucking SR-71 or something. Nowadays, if I had to pick one, it would probably just be an electric car that's small and just goes.
If you had to choose a car for yourself,
yeah,
I get that. But like all things considered, the more expensive, nicer cars are nicer to own and drive. Like they are more expensive for a reason.
Yeah. I mean, to talk about aesthetic, this movie was in 2006. Seeing these 2000s cars in this movie, like all tricked out, I thought was cool. Like, I love that classic, sleek, like bug-eyed look that all the cars have in the 2000s, especially with like the styles. It was kind of like a cool trip. And then up to that racing scene in the finale where they have all these cell phones. And you kind of have this scene where they're filming the race and they're like live streaming it to each other, like as if you could even make out what's happening on a cell phone video. I just loved the 2000s modernity in this movie.
It's definitely kind of a period piece.
Yeah, yeah, totally.
I really like that about it. It's like, this is 2006 Tokyo. It's not trying to say we have this super advanced technology. This is modern day Tokyo, no matter what year you're living in. It's like, this is what it was like in 2006. And that I appreciate. It reminds me of Superbad a lot. Superbad is like a hidden timepiece in that they don't, there's not a lot of public transport. There's like, the cell phones suck. That's kind of a major plot. Like they're buying porn on the internet and discussing which ones they should pay for. And so it's like interesting like that. And this movie reminds me of that in a lot of ways, because you do see things like the dated cars are from the same years and stuff. Well, some of them are older, but like the cell phones, that whole idea is really interesting.
The iPod with the cord
the
wrapped around it.
There you go, dude.
I mean, I wish more movies were kind of more modern like this. I feel like nowadays there's a lot of nostalgia, a lot of like coming of age films or even like action comedies and things like that. They're set in like 2000s or the 80s or the 90s. People want to like look at things and see period pieces, but this movie committed completely to the time period it was in. It played modern tracks for the time, like that whistle. I forgot that whistle song that they played at one point. I was like, holy shit, like it was hits from that era. And so like I think it pays off when you go back and watch it. So it really seems like it's encapsulated there. I think it makes it better.
Do you think the Hulk car, which we kind of glossed over, made it so that they could remake the Hulk in 2008? Or
revitalized?
So
I honestly maybe
for the people who haven't yet watched it, where Twinkie is introducing Sean back to vehicles. He's gonna take him to the drift place, and they have really cool car elevator kind of storage in Japan and in places that have, less space and try to use space more efficiently. And hilarious scene watching Sean see these like cars that cost $50,000 and up per car, like rotating through like 3 sports cars in a row. And he keeps looking over at Twinkie, who's just in love. He's just like,
he's waiting.
He's so ready for his car.
It's like waiting for his girlfriend to get off the airplane.
Like pure love, exuberant. He's like, and then this fucking fat green box rotates down with, at first can't even tell what it is. It's dense out of the back of it, and out comes this big ass green Hulk car.
It's literally like a Hulk,
Hulk.
like copyrighted, like the character, the Marvel character, the Hulk. It's a car that's painted and with body modifications, so it looks like the Hulk, but also looks
Breaking
like the Hulk is trapped in it.
Yeah.
Like the street lamp thing in Kung Fu Hustle. If you ever seen that movie, it's the same thing.
Yeah, there's like a little footprint in the back of it. And I think I remember first seeing this movie and I was like, what the fuck is that? Like, is that a foot? Like, I was so confused. I was like, is it a foot car? Like, he wants to show him his like feet car or something. I mean, that kind of like relates to like how young these characters are supposed to be too, which you can kind of feel in that Yakuza scene. But these are all like kids in high school, basically. And even like the antagonist of this movie, he seems like he's maybe like 19 or 20. Because once the uncle shows up, like you immediately see him turn into a completely different character where he's like crying and he's totally subservient to his uncle. But like to mention the relationship between, I believe it was Neela and Sean in this movie. Oh my God, I could not watch those scenes. Wow. They were so bad. The dialogue, it was like they could only talk in cliches. And there's like a scene where they're both drinking rock stars in the middle of the street. It's like with Label in, and they're like trauma bonding, like, my dad walked out on me too. And it's like, so did mine. And I'm just like, oh my God, I can't. And it dragged for so long. I just did not believe their relationship. I need to buy in. I need to buy in for those stakes.
It's hard to know who to blame because Sean and Neela's characters, or at least the actors, suffer from the same mistakes. Piss poor acting, number one, and an absolutely wooden script.
Right.
It's so I don't know.
A fucking coffin.
I don't know who's more fault. Maybe the actors were trying, and the director's like, no. Yeah. That's not what the script says.
Say it weird.
It says in the margins, you hate being here.
Nice ride. Like the way Sean has said nice ride in that super weird way every time, where he kind of just looks at them sideways and he's like, nice ride.
And there's
like,
more syllables every time he says it.
He had the most disgusting mannerisms. Half of this movie was him like walking into this movie was made for middle schoolers and high school boys because he'd like walk into an area where there were supposed to be sexy people and he'd like flick his tongue out and
yeah, oh God.
And then raise his eyebrows and was like, stop it.
It was like a little too horny in like a really bad way. This movie.
In a funny way, for sure, for me.
Yeah, in a funny way. The other really American scene was his dad showing up with a gun, pointing it at Takashi's character. It was such a cringe America scene. Where he's like, not if I have something to say about it, or something. And I was like, oh my God. And that's the moment where all the dads get a complete hard on, I think. But it kind of like leads up to Sean talking to his dad at this whole point, right? And I'm sure you guys probably know where I'm going. Like, his dad has been very strict with him this whole movie. He's like, you got to get your life together, man. You're fucking up. You're going out racing.
Making complete sense.
Yeah, totally understandable. That kid is a psycho. He sees his kid in like a gun standoff in an alleyway. And the kid's like, okay, Dad, I can't come home tonight. I got unfinished business. And the dad's like, all right, kid, you just go get him. I'm like, all right, what the fuck?
Is he a recurring character? Was the Major a character in a previous Fast and Furious or no?
No.
Okay. Oh, thank God. And then later gives his kid his like fucking passion project to compete in a death race.
Yeah, so let's get to the end. So in the final showdown.
If your kid said to you, and I'm responsible for my messes, you'd let him go too.
He's like, damn, good point.
Sorry.
So in the final act of this movie, the last act, because it kind of gets broken up a little bit more, but Sean goes to the Yakuza people and returns the money that Han stole and says, hey, I want everything to go away, back to normal. And the guy's like, that's not good enough. You've stepped on our toes. Right. And so Sean proposes that, hey, me and your nephew, DK, have been making a lot of trouble. So why don't we settle this with a race? And the problem is that Sean doesn't have a car. Because Han was the source of all his cars, and all of cars Han's got taken by the police. So what do? They go to the dad, and the dad has an old Mustang chassis that he's been kept keeping in the garage that he found on base, he says, because he's a military expat. And what'd you guys think about that scene?
The end scene, kind of the end race itself.
Yeah, the build up with the fixing the car.
I thought that was confusing because I would think that a Ford Mustang has too long of a wheelbase for like drifting.
I thought so too. I don't know anything about cars, but I thought that too.
I was like, that car's a little long.
Well, even Amber, who's like not into like the stuff at all, she was like, the car's like seems like it's too high off the ground. Like, wouldn't it kind of suck at this? Like, I know it's like all he had, but like it didn't. I was like, oh, but I liked kind of the build up and all the way up to that scene where it's like the moonlight and he's standing on the cliffside with the car, just looking at the racetrack. It was kind of vibey. I was kind of into it in like a campy way. But the scene itself, like I said before, it was kind of long. It was fun. It was fine.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think it's the worst part of this movie. is the final race. Just because, like, the interesting part about this movie was never the races. It was what was happening in the background. And this was the first time that, like, the actual race was the important thing happening. And because, like, when he lost his first race, what's the important thing is that he's realizing he doesn't know how to drift. And he's getting in the shit with the Yakuza. Like, he's got to figure this out now. And then later, he's learning. You know, he's beating DK's crew in races now. And then they're racing through the streets because if they don't win this race, they're going to die because DK's mad and he's chasing them down. And this race, it was just like literally a race. It was a sanctioned, essentially, race. And that's not as interesting. There needed to be like, in a different movie, it wouldn't be set up like a sanctioned race. It would just be like, I gotta get to the end to save the person before the train runs over them. And there was nothing like that. It was literally just who wins.
That kind of goes back to my point about at any point in the race, somebody can decide that they're gonna try to kill you and run you off the track. Because it seemed like they were going the route of, like, Sean went and he's like, listen, me and your nephew embarrassed you. Let us race and settle this. And I kind of got like the sensibility that they were going to be honorable about it. And he starts losing and he's just like, ah!
Like, what if Sean had like driven him off the cliff and he like talks to the uncle, is like, hey, sorry I killed your nephew, like that. Anyways, deal's still cool. Like,
yeah, totally.
Oh, totally, he's a piece of shit. Yeah, fuck that guy. It was hard to feel the stakes in that scene because you see like one pole in front of the other one, and it was kind of dark, and it's hard to set stakes, I think, in a movie for a race. It can be kind of tricky, at least in my opinion. It's rare when I see a race scene where I'm like, holy shit, this is intense.
Right.
Even to give like a popular example, Star Wars Episode 1 pod racing scene, I think is a great racing scene. But when you have something like this where it's just two racers, it can be tough to feel that stakes.
Yeah, I agree. And my other question is, how different would this movie have been if Heelys were popular when it was written?
Oh, holy shit.
Imagine
wow.
He gets like the scene in the garage that we talked about at the beginning of this episode. He gets up, they pull up in the Hulk Heelys. And into the garage, and they're all these girls surrounding all these guys with Heelys. And they're like, my Heelys don't drift like they should. Well, you don't drive them like you should. And then they're like, oh, shit. And then the HK comes up, and he's like, why are you talking
Heelys
to my
King.
girl? It's like, well, I thought this was a free country. It's like, well, let's race for it. And they get in the elevator, and it's like, that's HK. You know what HK stands for? And he goes, honky Kong. And then he goes, no, Heely King. It's like, Heelys? What you mean, Haley's? And then the doors
Kong.
open, and the two guys come by on Heelys. It's like, need more explanation?
Can I just run? No.
That's maybe what he thought he was doing.
I feel like you just tripled the deaths for Heelys. By introducing drifting, like if the concept of drifting came into middle schoolers' heads when the Heelys boom was happening, I think you just quadrupled or tripled the deaths that would happen at Disneyland.
I legitimately bought Heelys when we went to Disneyland in like 2007.
They're banned. They're still banned.
Really?
Yeah, because you could just roll around the park.
Man, I ate shit out in front of a Home Depot by hitting a crack in my Heelys. And I think that might have been the last time I wore them.
The reason why I'm here today talking on this podcast is because I never owned Heelys.
They're kind of popular again. I don't mean to detract us with this, but because
of course,
everything's cyclical and we've got TikTok now, I think people are into Heelys again.
They're kind of sick. And when you mention Heelys, usually the second thing they say is, "Oh, they banned those at Disneyland."
Yeah.
The end of this movie, of course, Sean wins, right? Beats Takashi, becomes the new DK, and the Yakuza guy's like, "You're free to go." And I thought this was after credits. It was actually in the actual movie, like the very end sequence where you meet Dom, where they're like, he's been tearing it up across Tokyo. He's one of Han's guys. And you see Dom. I kind of loved how like hammy and campy Dom was in that scene. Like I think it totally worked. And he said something about, he's like, Han was family, and the music kind of swells.
Oh, I did not.
Pulses.
Apart from that single line, like delivered by Bow Wow, actually.
Yeah.
I loved that scene. That was like really cool. I remember the first time I saw it, I was like, wow!
That was insane in 2006. Seeing like a callback like that, it doesn't happen a lot in movies at that time.
By the way, Dom is played by Vin Diesel. It's one of the main characters from the first two movies.
I think we're also given a little bit of a sense of what familiarity with a camera can provide in like this type of situation, because I think the three most convincing actors on screen were Vin Diesel in his 10 seconds, Han, and then I'm gonna go ahead and say Uncle Kamada.
Yeah, I think he did a good job. I think he owned his scenes.
I like Bow Wow.
Bow Wow he actually did pretty good. I love how the end credits, like the first thing that shows up is not the credits, is like, hey guys, please don't do any of this shit in this movie. It's fucking dangerous as shit. Like, maybe don't ever fucking drive cars like this. Like, it's like a long message, and it's on it for like 40 seconds to make sure you can read the whole thing. I just thought that was great. You guys want to get into the meters for this movie?
Let's come up with some meters.
Yeah. So what do we want to call like the car meter or whatever we want to call this?
The Healy
like
meter.
The Healy meter. I like that. I feel like it's gonna be difficult to explain. The accelerometer, the vroom meter.
I think it needs to not be from car culture. It needs to be something
the
really like
V-ometer.
stupid.
You can be like, this movie is a V10. Holy shit, cramp. Sorry. Oh.
We can talk about how many pistons it has, like a V8 engine. Or a V1.
Yeah. That's what I meant by V.
Oh, yeah. Jace is having a terrible cramp right now, live on camera. I hope he survives it. What's the thing they measure, like horsepower or torque?
Torque, displacement.
RPMs. We can do RPMs and do them in numbers of thousands, so like 10,000, 9,000.
Yeah.
That's pretty good, dude.
That's how we do our ratings.
That's
how
the
many
RPMs? Out of 1,000 to 10,000.
I like it.
Okay. Brian, I guess this is your season, right? Like you want to, and I guess define our new term, I guess.
Okay, so I guess we're going RPMs. So
sweet.
On how many RPMs I'm going to give. And remember, for our listeners, this is separate from the movie meter. We're going to rate the movies separately from this.
So important.
At first, we're going to come up with the RPM, which is how car movie is this movie. So a 10 out of 10 would be this is the ultimate car movie. Or at least a perfectly stereotypical car movie. 1 would be this really wasn't a car movie. So and these are all going to be different for all three of us, but what my meter is going to be based on is like, is there a final race? Mm-hmm. You know, is there a final, maybe not sanctioned race, but is the car used to go somewhere at the end of the movie? Right. And it's like getting there is, important. Is there a garage scene? Are there specific characters who work in the garage? Is there like, lingo? Like in this movie say, oh yeah, that red Evo's yours. Or did they say, this is a 1972 Chevrolet? I kind of expect car movies to be for car guys.
Okay.
So, do they mention hot wiring?
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Is that still a thing?
Oh,
yeah,
baby.
dude.
It's back.
Car insurance companies will
dude.
literally not insure specific vehicles right now because they're so easy to steal.
Okay, I wasn't sure with modern cars. It's
my coworker's car got stolen last week. So, anyways, I'm gonna give this 10 out of 10 on the car movie scale.
Yeah,
this is my most influential car movie. I picked it for a reason, and I think we learned from other seasons that we've been too harsh at the beginning. And even though we're picking the most stereotypical movies as the first movie, it's okay. It's okay. You don't have to say the 10 for the end.
Yeah, Ryan, I'm thinking about that too. Like, I don't know if I could think of a movie that's more car than this, and if I could, I don't think I want to see that fucking movie. This car is vrooming all over the place from scene 1. You're hearing so much like all throughout the movie. We're having to turn the volume down a bunch of times because we're watching it at like midnight and we don't want to disturb our neighbors. But like, holy shit, there's so much driving. There's so much looking at cars, talking about cars, using cars in an interesting way. But damn it, if this ain't a car movie, I'm not a racing guy, but watching this movie, it made me want to fucking race cars. All right. Like, that's insane for me to do. So, I'd say this is an easy 10 for me as well. Like, some things I want to consider in car movies, I think, as stereotypes, like, I like Ryan's gauge of having, like, a final race or a race just somewhere in the movie, and then having someone just kind of spit out a bunch of, like, car talk, where they're like, oh, is that a VTEC engine with a blah, 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 and a Hemi and a blah, 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 scenes like that, I think, will work into car movies. I'm gonna have to see more. I don't think I've seen enough car movies just in my general life to actually give a stereotype yet. So I think this is going to be an evolving meter for me, but I think this one is an easy 10. Oh, sorry, 10,000 RPMs.
Oh, shit, yeah, 10,000. We're in the red, baby.
Oh, You know, I don't know how technical I expect the movies to get for the car movies. But beyond them saying, "Oh, that's an Evo," you know, this movie did its due diligence in having equipment made by manufacturers for like secondary modifications for cars. That Mazda RX-8 had, for body mods, a Veilside D1 GT body kit, a Veilside carbon fiber GT wing, and a carbon fiber painted cowl hood, Takata seat belts, and Nardi steering wheels. The list goes on. So they hit it there. They didn't talk about it, but I don't really think talking about it would have helped, and I'm not gonna. I'm worried if I add that into my meter now, because I don't think some of the other movies. I think there need to be technical specifications in the movie that can be talked about or they can be shown. This movie showed the hell out of them.
Yeah.
Right? I think one of the really important things for me is for cars as a vehicle for the movie to like get somewhere and to portray something, we pretty much have to have some kind of shot from the camera into the car that has to be important.
Okay. Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Like we got Vin Diesel's like common one is like his arm up, he's like really clenched on the steering wheel. And you know, he looks to the side, he's like, family. We got a lot of that. I think this movie really took a niche part of driving, kind of expanded it into culture, and it exploded. I was trying to talk myself out of a 10, but I think I gotta give it 10,000 RPMs. This car has been heavily modified, and it's ripping.
Red lining, baby. Yeah, I think this was the easiest 10 I think I've given.
Yeah.
It's kind of just a car movie, guys. Like, it's a spin-off from a franchise that's less about cars than this. They're like, we need to have one movie that's just about cars for the car heads.
If someone out there thinks this is not a car movie, you are out of your fucking gourd, dude.
The original Fast and the Furious movies have like a FBI investigation undertone. So they're kind of cop movies also.
Yeah.
This is just about cars. There's none of that.
I do actually think there was there could be an argument for saying it could be a 9 because there's a little bit too much drama that takes away from the carriage, but then you'd probably go insane.
Yeah,
quickly.
What, I guess Mad Max, but that has water in it for like a few seconds.
Yeah. Huh.
Mad Max, they literally don't stop moving until the credits roll. We'd give that one an 11. As soon as a car is introduced, they're driving the whole time. Okay, cool. So, I mean, folks at home, let us know what you think about Fast and Furious Tokyo Drift. You do have to rent it. It's off streaming, unfortunately, but it's worth. We haven't even wrapped this shit. Okay, yeah, movie meters. Ryan, what do you think about this movie?
This is the hard part because I love this movie. I love this movie. And 90 episodes ago, I was so serious about being objective and what I would actually get to me and analyzing everything. But you know what? This movie's shot like really well. There's not a lot of like boring stuff in here. And some of the car scenes are gorgeous. Some of the not car scenes are also gorgeous. And for instance, the match cut, and one of my favorite match cuts ever is in this movie. When Sean's in the police station, he leans up against the wall, and the wall's white. And he's kind of like looking away from his mom. It's kind of like, ugh. And then for some reason, it zooms out, and you realize he's not at the police station. He's on a plane.
Right.
And that match cut was like so dope. And little things like that show me that they wanted to make this into a piece of entertainment. And it's a movie. It's something that works best as a movie. This is not a book. This is not an audio tape. It's not a play.
Can you imagine a book about this?
Or a play. Like they're just like sitting there. So yeah, I gotta go based on my enjoyment. And I'm going to give this movie an 8.
Wow. An 8.
I love this movie.
Thank God. Whew. Man, if you gave this a 10, I would have been like, I think we might have our first actual fight.
Hell yeah, Ryan. I mean, I love to hear like movies that we're like psyched onto. This movie is kind of interesting because like my reaction to it is kind of mixed. Like, does it work completely in all regards as a movie for me? I don't think so. But it is really, really successful and effective at what it does in like the action sequences and the driving. And it's so stylish. And I think it really sets out to what it tried to do. I mean, yes, it's a dumb aggro movie. Yes, it does like fetishize really weird like Western concepts of like Asia. But it's also kind of a fucking fun ass movie. A lot of the characters in this movie I just do not buy at all. Like, it just looked like they just kind of had I think it was an open casting call for for the lead character in this movie too. I was not feeling any of the emotional weight in this movie besides a couple of scenes. Honestly, I think Takashi did a pretty good job, that actor, in his scenes. He was bringing like a believable intensity, but like I did not feel the stakes. I think this was a lot of style and not a lot of substance for me. But sometimes style can carry a lot of movie for me. So shit, I mean, my enjoyment wise was pretty high, but looking back, like I can't say it's like that good of a movie. I think I'm going to give it a 6 though, which is a lot higher than a lot of the critics gave it. I mean, it was a fun watch, dude. I don't regret it.
I'm right there with you. I wrote this, not a robot.
Okay.
Factory tuned writing and acting on the track with a NOS boosted musical and racing performance.
Nice.
Doesn't really make too much sense.
No, it does. It makes sense. I like it, Jace.
Like really bad acting, I think is really that wasn't the focus of the movie. A lot of the money went into the set pieces. I think there was, like Ryan said, some really clever camera work. That was actually one of my first and most defining notes. I think it was just too bad where it was bad. That like by the time I got to watching my third drifting race in a row, I was like, And I've seen it recently, so I'm kind of thinking that, you know, this movie doesn't have the best rewatchability. Not that I'm sure many of the car movies will. So 6.
Yeah, honestly, higher than I thought we'd all
That's
give
how
this movie.
I thought you guys were. I needed to offset you guys with an 8 because I thought you were gonna come in with 3s and 4s.
Oh no, I think it's pretty enjoyable.
Yeah, I think it is. And honestly, if we were doing a Fast and Furious season, which I have not discounted, this might be one of our favorite entries. That would be my prediction. Well, now, there you actually have it, folks. There you have it. Fast and Furious Tokyo Drift has been reviewed. Let us know what you think, though, about this movie. Do you agree with our scores, our reviews? What do you think? What should we watch for the season? And, of course, let us know what you think about a Fast and Furious season. But with that said, we do have another movie. Is it my pick this week here for the next car movie?
The what?
Would you guys be fine with doing the Turbo Rangers movie?
I would be. Absolutely. I don't give a shit. Yeah, let's do it. If you're fine with pitching it and watching it, then I'm fine with watching it.
Like,
Agreed.
my first thing was like, I want to pitch Turbo, but I was like, maybe I'll get too much like flack, or maybe I should save it for a Power Rangers season. I think that kind of settles it then, because it's on Hulu. We don't have to pay any money for this
Holy
thing too,
shit.
which is
Okay, it's up to you.
Fuck it, let's do it. Turbo Power Rangers movie. This in accordance to seasons, you know, it's like sometimes we like to go up and then down.
Yeah.
I think this was a slight up, and let's go maybe possibly down.
We're gonna
I don't
kill
know
Jace.
how good this movie
Do you think
is.
this movie has an entry in Letterboxd?
Oh, yes.
See?
It's got 6,500 votes.
1997.
Let's do it.
And it has like 9 cars in the front cover, okay? And the Power Rangers are car themed. Okay, sweet. So next week, folks, we are watching the Turbo Power Rangers movie. We've all decided. Join us if you want to watch this thing. It's on Hulu, or you can rent it on Amazon if you don't have that. Catch up on the Power Rangers. This is a direct sequel to Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. This is 1997. This is the best fucking Power Rangers. Don't at me. With that, do you guys have anything you've been enjoying this week? Any GBGBs enjoys?
I didn't have any time to do anything this week.
Ryan doesn't enjoy anything,
sorry.
but that's okay. I have been re-listening to an old album that I liked, older, from 2020 by Gulch. It's called Impenetrable Cerebral Fortress. I don't listen to a lot of metal, but this is a very, very hardcore punk metal album. I guarantee you it's the hardest fucking album you'll hear this week. It's, I think, 20 minutes long, and it just bangs from front to back. It's a great piece of catharsis I find myself revisiting all the time. I also recently rewatched Lawrence of Arabia on HBO.
Boo.
And boy, that movie, I actually really enjoyed it. Ryan, you don't like that movie?
I don't know. Never seen it.
You don't know? Yeah, it's honestly great fucking watch. It's almost 4 hours. Watch it in chunks. Cinema masterpiece. I think it ages surprisingly well, besides a couple things. But still worth a watch, man. Shit, that shit was crazy.
Man, I had a week that literally made me take a day off last week. I enjoyed getting out in nature.
Fuck yeah.
Going camping, and I sat on I went with 4 people, and I sat on a river by myself, resetting for probably 4 hours.
Nice.
And I think that I needed that.
Good. That reminds me. Yesterday, Julie took me to a donkey farm.
Yes.
and let me play with the donkeys. And I gotta play with like 21 donkeys, you guys. They just let me go in the pasture with those free range donkeys, and they just like swarmed me and gave me lovin's, and I was in heaven. I've been talking about loving donkeys for years, and Julie finally set something up behind my back. So like, this is what I recommend. Similar to Jace, just like I needed it.
Touch grass, guys. Ryan, I loved seeing those photos on your IG of the donkey farm. I was very jealous. They were like mini donkeys too. Like,
They're
were they
American
shiny?
miniature
Yeah.
donkeys, yeah.
That was amazing. Jace, I'm glad you got outside too. You said you got back today and also one-shotted this today, didn't you?
Yep.
For this movie.
What a trooper.
Yeah. What a trooper. Jace has one-shotted so many of these episodes the last couple of months. So we appreciate that. This time around, so last season, we ended with a Seanism. We were trying to combine like a popcorn style. This season, do we want to try something different? Like I had an idea that each person, like whoever's movie it was, they end the show with something, whether it's like a quote from the movie or they just say something to end the show. We'll just give the spotlight to one person. They have the full power just to say the last thing or to end it.
It's not the ride, it's the rider.
It's not the cast, it's the casters. People, if a high schooler was like, nice podcast.
It's not the cast. Was that your daddy's podcast? It's the